It is Sunday, my dudes, and that means it is time for Oh So Curious. I'm Andrew Frankel. They gave me the nickname Dash. I didn't choose it, but that's the hand I was dealt. With me today are my good friends, Catriona, Roland, and Dan. We're talking movies. We're talking The Gray Man mostly. Some TV shows, and a whole other bunch of cool, fun things on today's live stream. But for now, as we try to tell time, we are going to just sort of freeball it with an open mic segment. Are we doing open mic? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, hey, before we get into it, some housekeeping.
I was gonna do that.
You
Pause.
you want to do that?
Yeah, here we go.
Okay.
You ready? Are you watching this? Here we go. Our podcast is live on Sundays. You can subscribe to us on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, Twitter, Twitch, pretty much anywhere you get a podcast. Follow us, interact with us, be part of our movie fan community. Family? Did I screw it up again?
No, you got it. Wait, you did get it.
All right. Anyway, yeah. Be our friend. Follow us on the social media.
Brother never told you never threaten a man's phone.
Oh, that's why. I should have known that's why you started calling it that. And I was
No,
like, this
it's
is
called
awkward.
community. You said the F word. That's not on me.
I
That's
didn't mean
on
to
you.
say the F word.
For someone with the call name Dash, you think you'd be quicker than that.
Nope. I'm a slow man. All right. Well, as long as we're here kind of spitballing, how are you? How is everybody? How was the week? Dan, how's it going?
It's been a busy week as usual. Catching up on my sleep, Had some technical difficulties before the show today. I was making a thumbnail. Photoshop decided to be stupid. Crashed. Did not save. So
Shout out to Adobe.
Yeah,
for being
they gotta work on that. It's not good enough when they give you the crash report, say, I'm sorry, there's a fatal error, the application will exit now, and what they don't tell you is, unfortunately, you're screwed, best of luck redoing everything you're just working on. So
they should have a doctor come to your door and be like, we're so sorry, there was nothing we could do. I think they could use some sympathy training there.
Yeah.
Roland, how about you? What's new?
I think everybody's had like a really busy week. I don't know what it was about this week, but everybody was like, you know what? We're just gonna add tons of work. It was long. I've been tanning. I've been working out in the mountains all week, and I have bug bites in place that I thought was impossible to get bug bites.
See, this is the exclusive scoop that you can only get here on Oh So Curious. We won't tell you where all of those bug bites are just yet, but stay tuned. We might. Catriona, how are you doing?
I'm good. My week was good. It's kind of a blur. I don't really remember anything specific from it, so I think that means it was a pretty good week.
You did see The Gray Man.
Oh, right. Well, we'll get to that.
That's a little bit of an indication, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, while we're here in the open mic, let's take a look at that comment of the week. This is something that one of you who interacts with us on a regular basis said. This is your opportunity to get on the show. And if you're watching now, comment now. We are standing by, looking at your comments and encouraging you to be part of the show. What is the comment of the week?
Yeah, let me put that up. There we go.
Comment of the week from RUTHXX. Those are the letters.
No. You're missing some of the grammar there. You gotta.
Oh, excuse me. R.U.T.HXX. RuthXX. It is so good. ... I just went to it. It's amazing. Well, we'll discuss that. You know. I didn't put the caption up on the title of the episode today, but we might disagree with you there, Ruth. Spoiler alert. Do we need a spoiler alert for that? We didn't like it. So yeah, Gray Man. And yeah, we're looking here at Netflix burning a large pile of money. Um, a little bit of a sneak peek into the further discussion, the deeper discussion we'll have in just a bit. But now, open mic. Anything you guys have been watching? Anything that's been particularly cool?
Actually, before we get into that, Andrew, I want to know what you were going to put as your background image because
Oh.
Roland and I,
Yeah, we did the Gray Man.
yeah, the Gray Man.
Yeah. Okay. So there was this is not normally what we have up here behind us. We have a couple of gray men. Do we know who those are? I know one's Gandalf.
Yeah, this guy. I don't know. He looks like a Ken to me. This is Ken.
It's like a
He's
Dreams
the
Time
embodiment.
royalty stock footage image
Yeah.
thing.
I
You
mean,
couldn't even
even
get
the
one that wasn't
royalty
watermarked?
cover is gray,
Come on.
so I think it's
Yeah.
perfect.
The
I think
gray
it works.
Okay. Yeah.
Gandalf there.
Let's get a good look at that. Look at all that gray.
Oh yeah.
I was
Before he was Gandalf the White. So I had to make sure.
He was Gandalf the Grey.
Yes.
I was gonna get the guy from 50 Shades of Grey and put him up
Oh, that would have been good.
Yeah, that
Jamie
would have
Dornan?
been good.
Yeah.
Jamie. Yeah.
Is it too late? Can you just do it?
I think you can do it.
I think there's.
Give me a moment. Yeah.
Be
while
careful.
I-
You don't want to find too sexy of a picture though.
Oh, here we go. Let's do this.
And then Dan is just hanging out there. He's not even wearing a
Dan-
gray shirt.
Nothing
No.
gray.
We got a theme
Nothing
going
gray.
on, and you're ruining the aesthetic of it.
Oh, I guess I'm just the blue man today. That's
Andrew,
that's-
why? It's not necessary.
I didn't choose where they put his face is in this for sure. I'm gonna go back.
I couldn't tell. I wouldn't have known.
That was totally
Alrighty.
uncalled for.
Yeah. But that's Jamie Dornan. He was in 50 Shades of Grey. It was a gray picture. That was more important to me as well. I wanted it to be in grayscale. Anyway, all better movies to watch than The Gray Man.
I have to find out why you are dogging on this movie so much. I feel like people are liking it. They're like, this is Ryan Gosling, this is Chris Evans,
Yeah.
Russo brothers. What's
That might
I thought
be
they were
the big
Russo
problem.
brothers.
Yeah.
Russo, tomato.
Oh, okay. All right.
In
never mind.
fact, yeah,
We're just
I
gonna
did
leave that
want to
there.
bring up something I did watch this week that was surprisingly sweet and wholesome. But this is Nathan Fielder's new show on HBO, The Rehearsal.
Yeah.
If you know nothing about it, first of all, Nathan Fielder, he's the guy who did Nathan for You, where he comes up with technically effective business schemes, but they're so absurd and ridiculous. It ends up just being a really funny show to watch. He's moved on from Comedy Central to HBO with this new show where the premise is instead of going into a situation where you're uncomfortable and unprepared, why don't you rehearse it perfectly dozens of times so that by the time you actually do it, you've prepared and you can go through all of the different permutations of what could happen. So to do this, he builds an exact replica of people's homes or bars or locations where these events will unfold. I mean, perfectly constructed sets, and hires actors to simulate the event where a person will confront somebody else in their life or go through that situation. It's super weird. It's got his brand of humor. It makes you cringe, so if you like that kind of stuff, I recommend that. But where it charmed me is that he finds a way to make it very human. And you start rooting for these everyday people who are struggling to get through a situation. And then they do it. And there's a real restoring faith in humanity aspect to it that was missing from Nathan For You. So it's not just silly and weird. It's also kind of nice.
Huh.
I recommend it.
Okay. I hear you.
By the way, I
Anything
found
else?
a new background. I would have to change because the way you guys are set up with the green screen, it can automatically come in on your feed everywhere. But for me, it's like 2 layers. So in my foreshot, you won't see it. But whenever you come up, full screen, there it is.
Hey.
So that's see the
good one.
gray.
I don't
It's
know
always-
if that's.
I heard about. He said that in the Barbie movie, Ken doesn't have a job or a house. Like he's a total loser.
It's sort of,
Interesting.
and the weird thing is in the press tour for this movie, The Gray Man, like when they did the red carpet and all, they're currently shooting this movie, so he's got like the hairdo from that, like the color is all, he's bleached completely.
Yeah.
So it throws you off completely because in the movie he's got a totally different hairstyle, and then half the
Yeah.
questions he keeps getting asked are about the Barbie movie. So I keep
Right.
seeing things like where he's like, "Oh, you guys haven't even seen half the costumes I'm gonna be wearing for this movie," and then the fact that there's more than one Ken in the movie. So there's other actors playing other versions
Yeah.
of Ken. This movie just sounds either like it's gonna be completely trash, or they're gonna lean into the cheesiness, and it's going to be the greatest thing of all time.
It seems like they're gonna lean into the cheesiness, and it also seems like Barbie just as a brand is getting a lot more into the idea that Barbie isn't unstoppable because she's beautiful. It's because she can be anything, and you too can be anything. She's a doctor, she's a lawyer, she's, a beach bum. She can be whatever she wants to be. It's the Kens that are going to be the problem, I think, in this. But before we move on, be sure to follow us on all of the different socials. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, anywhere you get a podcast. Be our friend, follow us, interact with us. Every time you do, you actually become part of the show. So, with that, why don't we move on to the quick hits?
Quick hits.
All right. Take it away, Andrew. All right, you know what? It's time for some quick hits. Let's see what went down this week. First up, this year's Emmy nominations are out. HBO's Succession received 25 nominations. Apple TV's Ted Lasso and HBO's The White Lotus each got 20. HBO Max's Hacks and Hulu's Only Murders in the Building have 17. And HBO's Euphoria got 16, including Zendaya getting a nom to defend her 2020 win. What do you think of the nominations? Who got snubbed? Let us know in the comments. Next, Connie Nielsen has joined Kaylee Cuoco's upcoming film, Roleplay. From Studio Canal Picture Company and Amazon Prime Video, the plot revolves around a married couple whose lives turn upside down when secrets come out about each other's pasts. Interested? Tell us. Tell us! Next, Stranger Things has just logged its 4th week at #1 on the Nielsen streaming chart. The series collected 2.95 billion minutes of viewing for the week of June 13th to 19th, and will likely see another bump when the numbers come for Volume 2's supersized episodes are released. They were long. I remember watching them. Okie dokie, moving on. Deadline interviewed Anthony and Joe Russo this week at the premiere of their Netflix film, The Gray Man, and asked them about why Secret Wars is their dream Marvel project. Joe Russo had this to say. It's incredibly ambitious. It would be bigger than Infinity War and Endgame, but it's a massive undertaking. Those 2 movies were very hard to make, so trying to imagine making another 2 movies even bigger than those 2, we're gonna have to sleep on that. Would you want the Russo brothers directing Secret Wars? Lastly, a recent Reddit leak from 4chan alleges that Penn Badgley is the frontrunner to play Reed Richards in the MCU. And apparently, Melissa Benoist and Natalia Dyer are in the running to play Sue Storm. Well, with San Diego Comic-Con and Disney's D23 events coming up, it wouldn't be a surprise if we soon found out just who Kevin Feige and co. have cast as Marvel's first family for the upcoming Fantastic Four movie. Do you think they're gonna get it right this time? I don't know, 3rd time's the charm. Let us know in the comments. That's it. Thems are the quick hits. And yeah, but before I leave you, remember to join us for live episodes of Oh So Curious every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. We talk movies, TV, streaming, music, and existential philosophies of life. So I don't know why you haven't tuned in if you haven't, because we got it all. We look forward to having you be part of our movie fan community. Did it.
You did that.
Thank you. Now, we talk about Netflix's most expensive movie ever. What was the budget on this? Like 200 million?
It's it's something along those lines. It was a big old number. I remember that.
A big old number, and for what? And for what?
Not much.
Yeah.
Not much. Over 200 million. Oy. So, let's see. If you don't know, let's start with just the obvious question. What does the gray man mean? What does that I thought going into it maybe it was some kind of sci-fi thing
I thought it was a code name.
or a code name. He's got a code name, and it's just the whole thing is so self-serious.
Okay.
But the gray man, imagine you're playing chess. You have a white, you have a black side. So the gray man would be someone who does
Okay.
whatever he needs to do.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I don't know. Let's just start. Katrin, you were there. You watched it.
I certainly
What was
did.
your main takeaway from it?
Well, I said it before, I'll say it again. Ryan Gosling continues to be attractive. And that's pretty much my positive takeaway from the movie. I wrote a list of things for it. It felt like it was trying to be like an 80s action movie, but not quite. Like I feel like it could have some of the jokes felt like it was just trying to be like that campy 80s thing. Do you know what I mean?
With like catchphrases and really cool
Catchphrases
dialogue that
and going
nobody would
back-
actually say.
Right, and going back to repeating jokes that somebody had said before. It's just all things that have been done before. And I think if they really wanted to go that route, they should have stayed with that and kind of dug deeper into that. But it wasn't like that because it was also trying to be a cool James Bond kind of thing. There was the whole opening scene reminded me of the I think it's in Shanghai in Skyfall. I don't know if you ever remember that, but the whole fight sequence, because it's like they're fighting in front of all these cool colors, and they kind of did that in the beginning of this movie, and I was like, oh wow, this is really cool looking.
I'll give them that. Like it was very visual.
Silhouettes, yeah.
There was a lot going on. There was a lot to look at. I joked that a big part of the budget went toward LED lights and multicolored, stuff going on in the background.
And drones.
And like,
Unnecessarily.
Ryan Gosling he's this hired assassin, and he's supposed. If you're an assassin, you generally don't want to stick out too much. He's out there in this designer bright red suit, walking around like people they were gonna want to talk to you. He's kind of making a scene. What were you gonna say?
Sorry, and not only that, but like he's been trained to be an intelligent assassin, and within the first 5 minutes of the movie, he blows his own cover to the people that he's been working with for years, just because of one person saying something to him, and then he's immediately like, I'm gonna believe this person, and I'm gonna instead of deciding if that's true and play along with the people I'm working with, I'm just gonna let them know, nope, I don't believe you guys anymore, and you feel free to come after me now. And the other thing was Chris Evans' character. He was so much cockier than his character. Like Chris Evans playing this character came off so much cockier, as if he was so much more brilliant and the whole thing was so much more meta than it actually was. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Like there is so much, like in the beginning they introduce him as like bring so and so on. I don't know Chris Evans' character's name. Bring him on. No, we can't do that. He's a sociopath. And throughout
the dialogue was very on the nose about that kind of stuff.
It's like those, actually, ironically, it's like those Netflix Christmas movies where they have the main character woman. Everybody's like, you're so smart and you're so funny and you're so this and that. And you never actually see them being that way.
Yeah.
It's just like, we're going to set you up and let you know that this is how this character is supposed to be, so that you can just have that in your mind. And then we don't have to do any of the other clever writing to justify it.
Yeah. Roland, you haven't seen it yet, but you've at least seen the marketing for it, and you're gonna probably watch it on Netflix. And that was sort of this whole this whole stunt is they released it in theaters to sort of build up hype so that people
Yeah.
would watch it on Netflix. Is there anything about it that, as someone who hasn't seen it, you're curious to know about?
I did have some questions, but you guys went through it. That was props to you guys. You had like 2 minutes and you answered pretty much all my questions because
We have more.
Oh, there's so much more.
I kept seeing different like it's an action movie. There's like some funny, or they're trying to be funny some moments. So I didn't know how well they were going to handle that. I know the Russo brothers were good about action. I mean, the whole everybody talks about it, but the Community episode with paintballs was like
Yeah.
this epic thing of like low budget. So like, what are they going to do with this high budget? But I mean,
I wondered because the Russo brothers have done a really good job at, like, they were the ones who started bringing humor into the Marvel movies and making those movies that are a bit of everything. There's drama,
Yeah.
there's action, there's sex, there's like it hits you on every sense. With Netflix movies generally, they always, I don't know if they're getting reined in to say like, maybe this could have been a lot better and Netflix is at fault. But I know Ryan Gosling is a great actor. I know Chris Evans can do the work. I actually liked him better as Lightyear, believe it or not. He was not good in this. I know that all of these people involved can do amazing work. And yet, the script was lacking. Some of the shots made no sense. Some of the, honestly, just the plot was so all over the place. And it just felt like a montage of like, we're here, now we're here, now we're here, now we're here. And there's so much action and destruction. And I have a bit of a destruction threshold that once it's by the fourth, I'm checked out.
Gotcha.
Well, and the other interesting thing is like what you're saying is like it's trying to be so many different movies. Like it's like James Bond, there's like some John Wick in there. Again, like just general 80s, 90s action movies. The action scenes, quite a few of them were pretty good. There was one specific action scene, or two even, that the music started to sound just like James Bond music. It was very odd, and it like pulled me out of the movie. I was like, whoa, is it making fun of James Bond or what? But it wasn't. It was taking itself seriously in that moment.
Yeah. And on the James Bond note, Ryan Gosling's character, his code name is Six, and everybody's calling him Six, and it's like, hey Six, where are you? And it's like they're really trying to make that sound cooler than it is.
Yeah.
And at one point, the girl he's protecting says, "Why are you Six?" He goes, "007 was taken." And it's like, if that weren't so true, then maybe, but it was the tone was really wrong, and I don't know if it was the writing, the acting, the directing, or somebody behind the scenes saying we need to make it this. I
think it was a combination of everything you just said.
Yeah, it missed in a lot of ways, and
there were a couple of points that I thought were funny, I think, and you kind of laughed too, like, right? We both thought like the cell phone thing that Chris Evans said. I don't know what he's like, speakerphone or whatever. That was like a funny joke. But
it sounds like I
don't want to say it's an abject
trying to do
failure.
Everything. What?
I don't want to say it was an abject failure. I just don't think it's not worth buying Netflix again to see this movie. And I think that's sort of what this whole stunt was about, was we're going to put a lot of money in it. We're going to put so much money into it. We're going to publicize how much money we're putting into it. We're going to get these huge name actors, these big time directors, and we're going to put it out in theaters so that people can talk about how incredible it is.
Yeah.
I was not impressed.
Well, that's kind of sad to hear because it's got the same writing team as like the Winter Soldier. I mean, they've always been this kind of like team. So to hear this is kind of crazy that they're trying to do everything and it just sounds like it's kind of collapsing in on itself. It's not too funny because it's taking itself seriously, and it can't be too seriously because it's trying to be funny.
They're M. Night Shyamalaning themselves.
Ah, there it is. Wow.
So do you think that like with them setting this movie up, because they have Knives Out 2 is coming. Like, when is Knives Out 2 coming out? And that's going to be a huge movie. It was the first one did great. It was, you know, a movie in theaters. This one's just going to go straight to Netflix probably, right? Unless they're going to do the limited release. So do you think that this movie was just specifically a setup to get people back on Netflix so that they can have people for Knives Out 2? Maybe that's where they're trying to go with this.
Well, that's the thing, is like it's a trap that they're setting for themselves, where they want to gain back all of the subscribers they lost, and that's why they've been taking a lot of risks this year in terms of what they put out and how they release it. And that puts them in a place to prioritize quality again, but also to, you know, always have that carrot on the stick further and further out. We always need something to tease you to subscribe one more month. You know, if they start releasing stuff in theaters, maybe if they did wide releases for everything and their stuff was truly of some quality, they could start making back their money and have sort of this hybrid model where they get a bunch of money from ticket sales and a bunch of money from the subscriptions of people who just are into watching Netflix stuff generally.
Yeah. I think that'd be smart, because I mean they're still going to do these limited releases, so might as well make it this kind of big limited release, but a general wide thing to kind of make it like a fun almost marketing thing, like, hey, we're going to be here for a week, come get it while it's quick, and if you miss it, well, it's on our streaming platform if you want to catch it. So
Go ahead. No. You go.
Well, we found, you know, there is a movie that accurately represents what Netflix is doing here. Not even metaphorically. I think they just sort of, we've seen this before. Dan, could you pull up what I'm talking about and just show us what it is Netflix is doing here?
It's not about money. It's about sending a message. Everything burns.
And I'll admit, that's entertaining. So Netflix, that's great. And, you know, as long as you're doing that, it looks like you're having fun. In the meantime, follow us on all of the stuff. We're everywhere. We're on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Spotify, anywhere you get a podcast. Interact with us, be our friend, tell us we're doing things wrong. Get us into fights. We'll engage. We're not afraid of that. Do you hear that? Those are fighting words. So, thanks for watching. Let us know what you think. Like and subscribe. And in the meantime, we are moving on to a review of Miss Marvel. Did they stick the landing this time? Let's find out.
Finally, an MCU show on Disney Plus sticks the landing. And oh my god, am I glad that it did. This was so much fun. I have to tell you, the episode, I was surprised how long it was. I was like half expecting it to be 35 minutes when I pulled up Disney Plus that day. I'm like, 49 minutes? Okay, minus 10 for the credits, still 39 minutes. I'm getting practically a TV episode here, you know? Just right from the beginning, I was like, okay, temper my expectations here. They left the show in a very peculiar spot at the end of the last episode. I don't know where they were gonna go with that. I mean, I felt like the main villains were gone. Maybe Kamran becomes a new villain, which, as it turns out, was basically that. He ends up being more like an anti-hero by the end of it. But anyway, yeah. Do you know another superhero whose costume is made by their mom and whose name is given to them by their dad? I mean, come on, man. Like, that's what I call a DC superhero. And I love my Krish, and I love Ra 1 and, you know, all the other Bollywood movies, but I had to say, Miss Marvel, my new favorite DC superhero. I'm into it, and I love the show. I mean, 6 episodes. I really wish they had taken more time with the show, given them maybe 9, 10, 12 episodes, but I'd love to see 12 episodes. I really felt like this story probably needed a few more episodes to fully get fleshed out, but, you know, overall, this was essentially meant to be the origin story for the character, and picked some of the stuff that I didn't like in the middle of the series out of it. This stuck the landing. I mean, this started off with a bang, and then this stuck the landing. As long as you can start off with a bang and you can stick the landing, people will forgive you for a whole lot else that goes wrong in the middle. And I think this is what's going to be the case with this show. And Miss Marvel, overall, I have to say, honestly, I've not enjoyed another Marvel TV show quite like this on Disney Plus. And so for me, personally, in my humble opinion, this is the best show that Disney has put up on their streaming service that is made by Marvel Studios. So yeah, the best MCU show on Disney Plus to date, and I'm looking forward to seeing where the character goes next. At the end of the series, all the credits roll, they say Miss Marvel will return in the Marvels, so we know when she's going to be back on screen. And of course, the post-credit scene is indicative of that. You know, spoiler alert, she somehow transforms into Captain Marvel, and you see Brie Larson. I wonder what happened there. I mean, if Brie Larson's on Earth, I wonder where Miss Marvel ended up. You know, where's Kamala Khan? So, interested to see how that's gonna, play out in the Marvels. You know what? Let's address that elephant in the room. Bruno said a word, and clearly they knew exactly where they were going with that, because he says the word. Okay, I'll say the word mutation. He said the word mutation.
Like a mutation.
And he said the word, and the camera hung on his face for 5 seconds, so all the nerdgasms can happen at home, and all the fanboys can just geek the heck out. And yeah, you saw me. My reaction was, yeah, I was. They said the word. They said the word. We're getting them. Doing one of those. So. Pause the screen for a sec. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I wonder where this goes and how it all puts it together. You know, it's weird because they haven't said X-Men, they haven't said Inhuman. We did see a Kree hand. We did see the 10 rings. We have seen, the Trigenesis sort of a motif with some of the CGI and in episode 5. So I wonder where all this is going. I gotta be honest. It seems like they're trying to meld those elements together, but hey, you know what? Kamala's like, just another label. Just puts it down and like, I'm moving on, just another label, mutation, whatever. I'd love to see Miss Marvel in something else before that. I mean, heck, give her a second season. This is one of the most earnest, one of the most heartfelt characters that they've got in the MCU today. She deserves to get more screen time, and I just think that, as far as the series goes, if you give her a season 2, it would fit perfectly. Like, I think she would fit perfectly right into, another adventure, whether it's another globe-trotting adventure, like, you go to Pakistan again, Karachi or whatever, or maybe you don't, maybe you go somewhere else, or maybe you stay in Jersey City. I don't know. I would love to see more Miss Marvel on the screen, clearly, and I'm excited again to see where Miss Marvel goes next. So let's see what happens. And whew, they said the word. They said the word. Or he said the word. Bruno said the word.
Okay, you've said the word a number of times now, and you've actually got me really interested now. Before we get into like an actual series retrospective on this, and it seems like they did a really good job here. The X-Men franchise is already one of the more successful Marvel properties out of there. Those are some good movies. People loved X-Men. That comes with a lot of recasting if they bring X-Men into the MCU.
Yeah.
Do they recast Professor X? I mean, we saw him in Spider-Man No Way Home, but we don't know what, the Sony Marvel stuff is. They could be bending a lot to try and make that happen. What are your feelings on that before we get into Miss Marvel?
I think that's a hard choice. They have to recast him. It's sad to say, and there's nobody I don't think that could do it as great a job as Patrick Stewart has, but they have to if they're gonna continue this franchise. And they're gonna make at least a trilogy with this. I just don't know if it's smart to keep Patrick Stewart in this, because we're seeing possible cast reveal that they're going to change the Fantastic Four.
Right.
They bring Penn Badgley. So I don't know. I don't even have a fan cast. I don't know who could do it justice.
I mean, it's also interesting to see, based on the end of Thor, we see from the top down, the villains are kind of going to be gods. And this new set of superheroes, the mutants, the X-Men, that could be coming up from the bottom. Is this phase 4 of MCU to see mutants and X-Men coming up from the bottom and gods coming down from the top? Is this what phase 4 looks like?
I don't even know if you would call it phase 4 though, because phase 4 is already what we were in, and of all the announced projects for phase 4, they haven't really, what would you say? They haven't even announced an official X-Men project other than the 97 animated series being brought back on Disney Plus,
Right.
which I don't know if that, like, what if sort of, depending on who you ask, is part that's supposed to be canon with the rest of the MCU, but then some people might tell you otherwise. So I don't know if the animated show is any at all connected to the live action stuff. They're also doing like an animated Spider-Man show that sort of fills in some of the gaps in the years before Tom Holland Spider-Man meets Tony Stark in Civil War. So other than that, there isn't any other X-Men project officially in the books, but in Miss Marvel at least they've given you the first official hint that they're on their way in. But
Yeah.
that only raised more questions than it answered because of everything that happened in the episodes preceding the finale. I mean, Roland, we saw a Kree hand that the bangle is initially picked off from. When they have the whole bird's eye view shot, you see the 10 rings symbols. So I mean, obviously this connects to Shang-Chi in some way. We know the Kree is where some of these abilities and powers come. Like Krees are where the Inhumans come from. Like Krees were what experimenting in humans sort of came out of a Kree experiment. That's how they were described in the Shield show on ABC. And then I guess they're not. I mean, we have seen Black Bolt and Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness, but I don't know how they're gonna introduce it. Maybe they're trying to meld the two concepts together. Is that I don't know. I feel like that's where they're going with this.
That actually, I didn't think about that. That's actually really interesting. So in the comics, Kamala Khan isn't a mutant; she's an Inhuman. I don't know how that works. In the comics, there's like this gas comes. So maybe they're just using that word. Maybe that it is just a straight mutation into Inhuman, not exactly a mutant. Maybe that's what they're going to bring into phase 5. We're going to find out pretty soon. But yeah, do you understand what I'm saying?
This. Let me pitch this. All right, so here's the thing, right?
Okay, I'm listening.
Well, they had all of these Inhuman references. I mean, if you don't know about the Inhumans, you wouldn't have understood, like, oh, the Kree hand, the severed Kree hand with the bangle being picked off. You mentioned in the pre-show there is this like artifact in Marvel Comics that sort of might be exactly what the bangles are supposed to be in this series, right? Like it's like a Kree artifact or some kind.
Yeah.
And obviously the powers that she has sort of line up with what the comic mythology behind that is. And then in addition to that, we have seen sort of, well, we saw how badly the Inhumans TV show went, and that wasn't something that Kevin Feige wanted to do in the first place. That was like a forced onto him by his superior at the time, who no longer works at Disney above him. Sort of got, that was a whole thing. But so Kevin Feige didn't want to touch Inhumans with like a 10-yard stick. But now he's had Black Bolt, played by the same actor who played what's his name?
Anson Mount, maybe?
Anson Mount. He played Black Bolt in the Inhumans TV show, which Inhumans originally was supposed to be a movie, and then it got taken out of his hand, and Kevin Feige was like, all right, whatever, you do what you want to do on TV, and he never bothered to like touch upon the concept again. But now, with a character like Ms. Marvel, you have to address it at least, right? Like otherwise because in this series at the end they imply that she is a mutant because Bruno tells her, and spoiler alert, that your genome is different from the rest of your family. You seem to have a mutation. Now what that implies, I'm not sure, but Andrew, like from the average viewer's perspective who only knows X-Men and sort of knows about Inhumans because maybe if you've watched Doctor Strange, but outside of that, I feel like right now, if I was just the average person on the street who wants to watch Marvel so they can keep up with everybody else who's watching Marvel, I'm thinking, what's the difference? And I mean, is that true? Like, is that how they're going to
Yeah,
approach it?
I don't think most people are well versed in, Marvel lore. I think the MCU has greatly increased the number of people who know how that, even just the basic fact that everything is interconnected in the comic books. And people didn't know that until 2012 or so.
Yeah.
So people love the X-Men. I think even me right now, I'm like, if they brought that back, I'd watch it. I'd see what they do with it. And what's really nice about the X-Men, even as a brand, as a franchise, is that it makes it a bit more of that relatable and what's the word, aspirational kind of thing, where because they're everyday people with a genetic mutation, you could just as easily be an X-Men, as opposed to somebody who came from another planet, or you're a god, or you had some incredible thing happen to you at a young age, like a spider bite.
Mm-hmm.
It could just be, hey, there's something about you that makes you unique. That's a very appealing message to people. And the X-Men tend to come across as a lot more human than regular superheroes. So
Yeah.
I'd be excited as someone who's not super invested in MCU stuff. X-Men is one that, I loved it when they did it the first time. I'd be up for seeing what they do with it now.
And Roland, so I mean, now that we know, like from the average person's perspective, it's sort of you're just on for the ride. You can't really, I mean, unless you start doing your research. But the pieces that I just put on that table, the pieces that this show put on the table, how do you
Mm-hmm.
think they all fit together?
It's a good question. I don't know. I don't know how fast Kevin Feige wants to move the mutants forward. I know he wants to use the Inhumans, and there's so much material that he can use, and I think they're really gonna do the Inhumans route just because of how central Kree are to Captain Marvel and her story, and bringing her in
Right.
and having her like it's a switch. It's been confirmed that so Kamala Khan is like somewhere in the cosmos somewhere, and
So it is.
Captain
It's
Marvel.
it's not like she turned into Captain
Yeah,
Marvel.
no, it's
Okay.
it's it's a it's like a transportation thing, kind of like they
I
switch
wasn't
places.
100% sure. I was just I was
It's very weird, yeah, because it's if you don't know, then it's like how can you? It definitely looks like she transforms if you watch the clip too.
Yeah. How
But
does that? How do
might
you
bet
think
it's
all that
cute.
connects to the Ten Rings then? Because remember that in the post-credit scenes of that movie,
Yeah,
Captain Marvel, like Carol Danvers, is there along with Bruce Banner, and they're trying to figure out this thing is sending a signal somewhere,
yeah.
and now we've gotten all these hints that the Kree are gonna be involved somehow. How does
Well,
that
they
work?
in Shang-Chi, he doesn't even say like how he finds the rings in the first place. So who's to say like he also doesn't find it in the same way, or if he knows about the bangle. I I feel like this show left me with a lot of like uh just questions that I need to answer. I'm like, what's the story behind
Yeah.
this? I want
Well,
a
what are
connection.
those? What are those questions? What should
Uh
we be looking forward to now?
I'm definitely looking forward to the Marvels. That'll be interesting to see. Bring
Yeah.
Photon, see how she gets wrapped into their craziness. I
I
don't know. What about? I mean, Dan, do you have any questions?
Before we wrap, and I mean, okay, I have questions that I've already like mentioned, like so many questions, like mutants, Inhumans. I want to know
Yeah,
obviously where, her personal story journey goes, or at least the people around her, because I think the show did it has got a 98% Rotten Tomatoes score. This is the highest rated MCU thing ever, like movie, TV show, whatever. Obviously, the audience score is a little lower, which I think is an indication of why the show maybe wasn't quite catching on with the zeitgeist like some of the other shows had, like Moon Knight. But
Yeah.
but I'm excited for not just because I think the biggest thing this show did well and better than any other MCU show was all the supporting cast around her was fleshed out better than a lot of those other shows would have done in the past. And you really got to explore a different culture and world that that we haven't seen before. Now MCU as a whole, I think, has been doing a much better job of that in Phase 4, but this show I think was the best example of that. So I really what I don't want to have happen is we got this incredibly rich backstory that just gets shoved to the sides for the sake of the next Marvel project. Like, I think the fact that we just spent majority of this review of the series talking about what's coming next rather than what we just watched is, well, A, playing right into the hands of what Marvel wants us to do, and B, I think it's an indicator of, like, there's a lot of things about this show that I like, but there's also a lot of things that I think they did wrong. Like, I think the villains went between being incredibly confusing as to what they wanted to do, to being rushed in and out of the show, to ultimately them being resolved like, oh, whatever, we're moving on to the next big thing. And then we got the whole Terragenesis thing, and they're like, oh, left that hanging. Now people are asking questions. Was that Terragenesis? How they turned into rocks and crumbled? Like, there's all of these elements that when you walk away from the last episode of the show, the biggest thing you care about is, oh my God, they mentioned the X-Men. They said mutation, and that's it. And now you're just like, okay, well, done. And I think there's a lot of rewatchability factor that goes away simply because the last thing that they said in the show, I think it might have been even the last word in the show, unless you count the post-credit scenes. That alone now overshadows everything that came before in the show. And I think that is a problem. I think that's a problem.
It might be a problem, but it's like, is that how they market this? Is that, you watch Marvel series to get hints about the MCU. It's like for people who want to do the extra work and dig.
But the thing is, I'm getting tired of every new MCU project turning out to be a commercial for the next MCU project. Like, why can't we enjoy that MCU project? Because, like, I think Marvel used to do post-credit scenes or do like these hints and Easter eggs that would sort of hint at something down the road, or like, there would be somehow can manage a way to use the Easter egg to connect another project and say, oh, look, this is one more way how the MCU connects. Whereas now it feels like those little hints have all of a sudden started to just overshadow the project that they're a part of. Like, back in Phase 1 or Phase 2 projects, Iron Man movies used to hint at stuff. Like, in the first Iron Man movie, at the end, he walks up to Thaddeus Thunderbolt Bolt Ross, and he says, I'm thinking about putting the Avengers together, which, by the way, in hindsight, does not make any sense as to how that scene connects to what we see in the Avengers. But anyway, it was like a little hint. But now, like, at the end of Thor, you get Hercules. Again, spoiler. But and people are mostly gonna talk about that. They're like you said, like, where are we going now? There's gods versus superheroes or X-Men, and nobody cares about what happened, like, with Gore the God Butcher and stuff. We're just sort of already done with it. I feel like we don't get a chance to breathe and sit with these projects anymore. We're just like worried about the next big thing that they drop because Marvel is too busy with that kind of thing.
They've always done that though.
They've turned into comic books at the end.
They have, but I feel like it's gotten worse. Not worse in the sense that they're doing a worse job of it. I think production wise they're doing whatever, they're fine. But I think what's bothering me now is those little tidbits take away from the rest of what we have just seen. Like, people walking away should be talking about, I think, in my opinion, how thematically enriching the story you just watched was for you, rather than, walking away and thinking, oh my God, the X-Men are coming to the MCU now. How do the Inhumans tie into that? Like, like, you're talking about that stuff and not the story that you just watched. That's kind of what I'm trying to get at. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, it gives us a lot to look forward to, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. And I'm glad to see that this is performing better than, Moon Knight, which I did not care for.
Well, actually, ratings-wise, until we get official numbers, I think Moon Knight still did way better, but we don't know anything
in terms of quality, though, right?
After the first episode, so they have yet to release how the ratings of the show progressed beyond the first episode. But the first episode was the lowest-rated debut of any MCU show to date, which I can understand. The general interest wasn't the same. Whatever. Well, I bet you a lot of people watched the last episode or just skipped to the last. At the very least,
that last cutscene. Yeah. That puts a cap on it. In the meantime, thank you for watching. Be our friend, like and subscribe and share and do all the stuff that a good little subscriber does. You want us to like you, don't you? Well, like us back, and join us every week for commentary and reviews. Roland, are you not buying it?
I just love the little subscriber thing. I wasn't expecting that, and I thought that was really good.
Yeah. We'll be good little hosts if you be good little subscribers.
Hate
That's
it.
On to the next thing. We are talking about reading the Chiron there.
For all mankind.
Okay.
I got you, Andrew. Don't worry.
Are you back?
I should be fine. Yes. Hello?
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Let's review it. Let's review. For All Mankind. I have not been watching the show, but Dan has been watching it, and he can't say enough great things about it. This is a show about an alternate reality. Could you catch us up really fast?
Yeah, I mean the show is fantastic. I keep saying every week this is literally the best show on television in terms of like if you're a sci-fi fan, this is the best sci-fi show you can watch. Not only that, I think even if you're just not watching a sci-fi show, you just want to watch any TV show ongoing right now. It's 3 seasons in, so you'd have to catch up a little bit, but it is literally one of the best shows on TV. It's executive produced by Ronald D. Moore, who's known for doing the newer iteration of Battlestar Galactica, which I think most sci-fi fans will tell you it's one of, if not the best sci-fi show ever done. So for this to be his follow-up, in a manner of speaking, like, you know, it's fantastic. So there's a lot of you mentioned something when we were going through a review of the latest episode before we like to prepare for this, that you read the review for the episode 6, which is what we were talking about, and basically you were like, nothing about this review tells me that it's actually a sci-fi show. And I think that speaks to the quality of human drama that the show brings to the table, which is something that a lot of sci-fi shows don't do a very good job of there, because they're really focused on the sci-fi concept and stuff. But this show really puts that like front and center, and it does a good job with it.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about Star Trek and Star Trek: The Next Generation and how sci-fi is really just a backdrop for exploring moral and social issues, and you can put on a good show that's compelling without making everything about multiverses, laser guns, spaceships, and, you know, aliens. But you can have all of those things in it. But they're on Mars now. First of all, what year is it, and how did we get to Mars?
Yeah, so the year is 1996, but some of the technology that they show you is like more like what we have today in the modern day world, because the show, the whole premise of the show is this: you have a situation where NASA lost the race to the moon, so the Soviets won, and therefore NASA continued to get funding and never shut or died down the way it did in real life, and because of that, they've continued to make, you know, tons of money. Now they're actually making money for the United States, rather than just being a black hole for money going into all these projects. So beyond the moon, they actually, in season 2, they set up the whole base in the moon, and that was in the 80s, and they skip a decade to get to season 3, and now they're all going to Mars. You have the Americans, the Soviets, and then a private space agency called Helios going there as well. And now in this episode 6, they're there, and the NASA guys, apparently, so the NASA and the Soviets landed together because the Soviet spacecraft got damaged, so the NASA guys picked them up, got some extra fuel, and so the NASA and the Soviet people are like on one side in their habitation module, I think they call it, and then you have the private team doing their own thing separately, but obviously they're not that far away from each other, so they can kind of go back and forth. And the key in this episode is that the NASA have modules, their carbon scrubbers are not working. So, and their cooling systems are not working. So on Mars it can get really hot during the day. So if you don't have active cooling systems, it can get really hot inside these modules that you're living in. And without the carbon scrubbers, your oxygen content gets low, and that could cause hypoxia. So they're really struggling with those systems.
So there is a bit of science in it, which is
good,
at least. You know, the
it
science
does a good job with that. Absolutely.
But now, you know, in this episode, in this alternate universe, Will Tyler comes out while documenting his time on Mars. That causes a little bit of upheaval on Earth and Mars. How did the show handle it? Was it, you know, it's an alternate universe, so it's not necessarily going to reflect this world.
Yeah, well, I mean, and then you got to take into account it's still 1996. They may have flat screen TVs and an iPod and stuff, and they're all doing video calls with each other. It's not like they have iPhones, but the technology is probably 10 years ahead of where it was in real life. But that doesn't mean the social sensibilities are where we are today in 2022. So you have this like huge like reaction to him coming out on national TV when he's talking to a news reporter, and like apparently they throw out a number like 73% of Americans polled are still very much against the idea of their like their astronauts, or I don't know exactly what they say, but like people basically somebody in the public eye being gay. So it's very much
Hmm.
frowned upon by the majority of Americans at this time. Ironically, President Ellen Wilson and her husband, like they're both actually gay, and this is like a whole story. You have to watch back the previous two seasons of the show. And so the sitting president, who is a Republican, whose party is majority against this, against gay rights and stuff, she like secretly is also gay, so like she's put into this big conundrum. How does she deal with it? Because there's the whole what she feels about it personally, how she has to publicly portray an image, and then how to balance out Democrats calling for this to be like, now okay, this is the landmark moment for us to go in favor of gay rights, and then she's from the Republican side, so she's like, I can't just like all of a sudden let piss off everybody in my own party. So ultimately how to deal with that is her husband comes up with this idea of um basically introducing what was in, I think, based on real life stuff. I think there was this law that officially wasn't called this, but it was basically don't ask, don't tell in the military.
Hmm.
And that's by the end of the episode, she's making this press conference announcing this, that in the military nobody can ever ask you if you're gay or not, and you're not supposed to disclose that. And that's where we leave it. And I was just like, the tie
It's
into the
it's
real
interesting
life
where
stuff.
they blur the lines between reality and alternate reality
The
for
show does
something
a
like this.
fantastic job of that, and I love how I mean, even for something like this, which is as controversial a topic as it is, I mean, they'd even deal with the fact that he did something like this, which, I mean, well, he came out on national TV, which, think about it what you will morally, but it totally like overshadows the rest of the mission, where they're barely keeping themselves alive while their carbon scrubbers are not working and their heating systems are failing, and they have Soviets on the team as well as NASA astronauts living together.
Mm.
And like, so now you have to account for like what the Soviets are thinking about this. Like there's all kinds of political, so there's many layers and nuances to this. And even but regardless of whether you agree with what Will did or not, and where you are on the moral side of the argument, there's all these other like elements that they bring into play, which is, again, like I say, from a science fiction standpoint and allegory, and as well as just a human drama of it. This episode is one of the best things that the show has done to date. Yeah.
Yeah, and just to touch on a couple of the other things, we have Danny Stevens' character kind of spiraling. We know that other people are catching on to his issues. Kelly and Politov, they have this love affair, and now her dad's entering the picture. What are the juicier things of this episode that make it stand out?
So Pelatov is one of the Soviet guys who came on board when they took the Soviet astronauts on board, and he's like he was one of the younger guys. And Kelly is Ed Baldwin's daughter, and Ed Baldwin is the one leading. He's a former NASA astronaut who he's leading the mission for Helios, so he's their mission commander. And he comes over with like, because their mission is much bigger. They have more astronauts, a much bigger ship, so they have much more food and drinks and everything. So they're like living the comfortable life, whereas these NASA and Soviet guys are scrounging to like make everything work, and they have dry food, and they have to like hydrate their food and stuff like what you hear NASA astronauts do in the space station. So he comes over, he brings over like Pepsi and like nice meals and everything. So they're having a party, but then Kelly's like told Pelatov, we can't let my dad know that this is the thing, like we are a thing. So he acts like he doesn't know her at all, and the two of them are actually like working on the same systems together, so they would be on a day-to-day basis working with each other all the time. So then Ed like is also like a staunch American, so like he reacts like, oh, you stupid Soviets, like you work with my daughter all day long, and you have no idea what her name is. And it's just hilarious because, I mean, Joel Kinnaman is a great actor, and then just the whole, it's sort of when it comes across as a situation where you're screwed if you do, and you're screwed if you don't. And
Yeah.
he pretends not to know her, but it somehow leads to even worse reaction than maybe if he had just told her that like the two of them are uh well, having an, I don't know if you want to call it affair, neither of them are married, but
Mm.
they're 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 having a fling, I guess. if
A fling.
you want to call it that.
All
It's
right,
funny.
so
I love
it's-
the again just the it's not like discovering life on Mars, but this is the part of the show
No.
that keeps you entertained. So
Well, there's kind of that theme of life going on as
Yeah.
we go deeper into the universe and into space. Like that's kind of that's good social programming, maybe. Like, yeah, like life is gonna continue. There's
Yeah.
always gonna be issues, and no matter where we go, we're still gonna be human. Nice little segue there to, in terms of where we're going. Where do you see this? Where do you see this going?
So by the end of this episode, which by the way, the human drama of this is, I think, what will draw. Like, this show is not just meant for hardcore sci-fi fans, and I think
Sure.
this continues
Doesn't
in this
sound like it.
episode. Moving forward, what happens by the end of the episode? So okay, so the during the course of the episode, the Soviets approach Helios on Earth, because they're working in the Johnson Space Center anyway, because now it's a joint mission for the NASA and Soviets. So those Soviet people who are already in the U.S., they go over to the Helios HQ and they say, hey, look, our satellite imagery found like this huge Lake Tahoe size underground water deposit, which, by the way, their big goal is to find water so they can generate fuel for the journey back home, which would be part of their mixture that they would need for their rocket. So it's a big resource, and then just to live on Mars, you need water, obviously. So, but they're not sharing this information with NASA. They're like, we'll pay you Helios to go dig this up for us, but then we get to keep it. We don't share it. But then NASA finds out. I won't get into the details of how they find out. NASA finds out, and then the people at Johnson Space Center let the people on like the captain of the NASA expedition on Mars know, and she hears this video message and then goes and confronts them, like. And Danny, who's the commander of the NASA mission, has worked with Ed for like 20 years when he was at NASA, so they're like great friends. And all of a sudden she's like, "How dare you not tell me this? I know this is like your Helios boss has told you can't say any NDAs and whatever, but." So now you have this pressure cooker that is about to explode because NASA's like, you Soviets are living under our roof, but you wouldn't tell us that you found water, and you went to Helios to go dig it out for you, and your plan was to just leave us to die without the water that we would need too. And it's like this tribalism. Like, the whole thing is, this episode is called New Eden, like a fresh start for humans, but somehow the same old problems keep cropping up of this tribalism and everything.
Eden wasn't devoid of problems either.
Exactly. And then on
it
Earth,
also led to all kinds of new things when you think about it.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, and then the other part of this is on Earth, like apparently Ellen, the President Wilson's husband, is having a fling with another guy, and that's, I guess, fine because they both know to each other they're gay, to the world they're not, and they're married and whatnot. But that guy meets some other Washington insider who happens to, I think he's just his friend, and they're talking at a bar over drinks. But then he gets into a car and says, "Hey man, I got to tell you the story about, like, President Wilson and the first man or whatever." So now this guy might be going to like a Bernstein or Woodward and Bernstein, like somebody at the Washington Journal, and that might explode, like, that we might finally hear publicly that President Wilson is gay, like this character who's hidden it all her life. She used to be an astronaut, now is a president. And so you have that side of it ready to explode, and then you have what's going on Mars, like about to completely, like, either fall apart or blow. So this episode leaves you with like this boiling pot that is like about to absolutely blow up, and you don't know where things are gonna go and how the pieces are gonna fall. But I am just super excited for what happens next, because now
It sounds like a compelling.
Season.
It sounds like a compelling show with aspects that you really wouldn't expect. It touches on a little bit of everything. I know. How many episodes are left in the season?
There's 10 episodes. We're 6 episodes in, so 4 more to go. So we're a little more than halfway through.
I mean, just talking about this now, I'm excited for the next time jump to hear like what this decade looks like.
Yeah, they skip 10 years. They skip a decade every season. So like I think they have like 8 seasons of this plan. So they may end up all the way to like the 2050s by the time we finish up.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing more about how this goes, and maybe I'll end up watching it because it sounds like there's a lot going on.
It's a great show.
And you watching this, you should watch it. And if you are watching it, tell us what you think about it, because this is how we make shows. We interact with you. You tell us what you think. You become comment of the week. Or maybe you're watching now and you think, I'd like to say something to that person. And you can, and we'll look at it. But in between those times, like us, subscribe to us, let us know what you think. We're all over the internet. You can find us pretty much anywhere on social media. Look for Oh So Curious. This is a way for you to be part of our movie fan community. I'm going to get used to saying that at some point. Anyway, yeah, our NFC. MFC.
MFC. Movie
And
fan
we should make an
community.
NFT of our MFC. Anyway, let us move on to our preview of Nope. Ask me if I want to see it.
Andrew, do you want to go see
Do you
Nope?
want to?
Nope.
Loser.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. Oh wait, where are my glasses?
Loser.
We've seen
so excited.
Jordan. Are you?
So excited.
Why? You're a big Jordan Peele fan?
Yes, I'm such a Jordan Peele fan.
Why?
I don't understand how you could be so negative about this amazing film that's about to happen.
What's so amazing about it?
I don't know, man, because it's cool. I don't know how to describe it to you. You're either with it or you're not with it, Andrew, and clearly you were not with it. All right. So
I thought you were crying for a second.
I know. I don't know what's
Okay, I was
happening.
like-
This is like an alien reaction that's happening.
Oh.
Andrew's feeling an emotion for the first time. That's not anger, and he's just body's projecting it.
Yeah, what
Catriona,
is
are
it?
you
What
with
is
it?
What? What do you?
Are you? Roland has given us the ultimatum. You are either with it or you are not with it. Are you with it?
Can
when
I
it
just
comes
wait
to-
and can I just wait and see? Like, I mean, I want to see it.
You
Can I
do?
just say that?
Okay, yeah, you can
I
say
Okay.
it.
I like. It's
Alright.
an alien movie, right? I like aliens. That's cool.
I don't I don't know
Seems like
based
it's
on the
aliens.
trailer, which I've seen 40 times going to the theater. It's is it an alien movie?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, why do you think they're
Or-
looking at the sky? The first trailer I will say is pretty ambiguous, but you can tell like it's a UFO. Like right here, you're seeing them kind of like run from it. But basically what the movie is about is these two siblings who are trying to film a UFO after their father dies from like a mysterious object just randomly falling from the sky. That's what it's about, and I'm really excited about it. I'm planning a video for it for next week. Have some cool ideas, but people are getting some fan theories. I was
here's-
saying,
Oh, go ahead,
Yikes.
go ahead.
I hadn't seen that one yet.
yeah, but people are saying Nope might stand for something, possibly not of planet Earth.
Ooh,
That's like a possible
that
theory.
makes too much
Ah.
sense.
But I mean, Jordan Peele loves his one word titles, which I also love. But I think it's that, and it's also kind of like the basic reaction of, every time there's like a creaky door, or every time somebody's about to do something stupid, your immediate reaction is like nope, 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 And
That's
so
what I figured that was. The
Yeah.
acronym I don't love, but okay. That
I have a
makes
theory.
sense.
If you watch the first trailer, it's all about like Keke Palmer's characters in front of a green screen. They're in some sort of studio, and it's like I don't know whether that's a hint at being some kind of a social media influencer or something else of the kind. And then recently I saw Jordan Peele talking about it within one of those interviews that you would do on a press tour with one of the journalists. I forget which outlet this is for, but basically he was asked about like how did you come up with the title, and he was talking about like one of the titles he was considering was Little Green Men, and the idea of like how we are all that kind of critiquing how humans are so much into the idea of spectacle and using this movie's story as a means to kind of play on that concept of how much we are all drawn to spectacle, and you see in some of the pictures from the trailers that we just put up there earlier, there's some parts of the movie that show that they're filming what's going on as it's happening. And I feel like some of this movie might go in the direction of there may actually be an alien, but the focus of the story is the fascination and almost like the fetish that humans have of turning this into some sort of a social media frenzy
That's
and
interesting.
staging something.
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
I have
Yeah.
another theory about what it could be about.
ooh, okay.
You think it's about aliens, but it's actually the government hiding as aliens trying to sabotage this family who has the most successful, I don't remember how they were described, but they have a very successful what is it? There's something with the film industry. They're like one of the most successful family with that, whatever it is.
You mean from the first
they're-
trailer?
There's
Was
Yeah,
that-
from the first trailer.
a- they own the ranch, don't they?
They own
they
the
own the
ranch, and
ranch.
it's like, yes, and it's competition. So maybe
Hmm.
it's not aliens at all.
That's
Huh?
Maybe it's
I-
a film set that has very good alien technology ships that sabotage.
so. This is the part where I think my question from the graphic here comes in, right? Like, will it be
Hmm.
more like Us or Get Out? Because Get Out had that premise of like there's more sadistic, something more sadistic going on than just what was on the surface of the story, and then
Yeah.
it stuck to that. Whereas with Us, the way they explain things away in the end and how there's a mirror universe and there's an evil part, like counterpart to everybody, sort of just leaned into this sci-fi, like over the top stuff, and I think then that's where it lost a lot of its audiences. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of people will say Get Out was a better film than Us because it committed to sending like a message and kind of it didn't run away from maybe that part of like it had more of a message than just being like this, oh, I don't know, what would you call this, Deus Ex Machina kind of an ending, because I feel like Us had that, whereas Get Out did not. Do you think Nope, with everything we were just talking about, there's potential to go either way? Which way do you
Yeah.
think he goes here?
Well, I'm looking at some of the graphics and the visual effects of like people's faces kind of melting and their skin peeling back, and it's like that's not necessarily just a thematic monster thing. It doesn't necessarily strike me as just aliens. There you go. There's room for metaphor in this. Yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't. It hasn't communicated what it is just yet, and I think that's part of A, the marketing, and B, the setup for the actual horror elements into it.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how this becomes scary. If it is what either of your theories are. Like, I don't know where the horror comes from. If it's
I mean,
them staging it, or if it's the government trying to compete with them. Where am I going to get scared? Just the visual effects?
there are some very creepy shots of. I think you should definitely rewatch the trailer. I'll say that for one, Andrew.
Again?
Because or it doesn't have to be the very first one, but like maybe the second one. But you see just like hints of the little green man. You see hints of the UFO. You never want to give too much of a story away, especially when it comes to horror, because a big part of horror movies is setting up a question that you don't know if you want the answer for. So I think keeping this mystery is a great part of marketing and keeping people interested. So I'm glad I don't know too much, but I know the basics of it.
Well, I'm probably going to see it. As somebody who
You sound thrilled.
As somebody who really loved Get Out and just adored Us, I really hope that Jordan Peele can outdo himself this time with Nope. How about you guys? You excited to see it?
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm excited.
Oh yeah.
It's very intriguing. I'll be honest, I did not see either Us or Get Out in theaters, and then I watched Get Out later, but then I was just driven away by what people said about Us. And then I've not been the biggest fan of what Jordan Peele has done with the new version of The Twilight Zone on Paramount Plus.
Yeah, me neither.
It's very hit or miss for me. So I'm a little like on the edge. I feel like he's still early enough in his career, but he's like a very young M. Night, kind of a director. Like he can either become like the Shamhammer, or he can kind of chart his own course, because so far he's been hit or miss, and that feels more like what M. Night has become in his career. And I'm cautiously
I usually like
optimistic.
his stuff, actually. I like M. Night Shyamalan. But
All of his stuff?
Almost all of it. Yeah, Signs wasn't
Really?
very good.
What?
But
I
Really,
thought
that's
that
the
was
one that you're
better
going
than-
after?
Yeah, really. Like, what the heck?
I like The Village. I like Devil. Sixth Sense is a classic.
Signs was a good movie. Yeah.
I guess the
like-
water thing with Signs was always annoying. I'll give you that.
I liked all of the Glass trilogy, like Split and.
Oh, really?
I love those. I thought.
Okay.
I
I
like
like
the
those.
finale. I think people
Okay,
like
cool.
the
all
until you
good.
get to Glass. I think people were into it.
I didn't see Glass. I
They're
like the
all
other
good.
ones.
They're all good. I like them all. Anyway, if you're watching this and you're a horror fan, you think Jordan Peele is doing a really good job, or if you think he should have stuck to comedy, let us know in the comments, and we'll engage with you. We'll do the whole thing. Thank you for watching. I think that's about it for today. Thank you for watching. This has been another Sunday with your friends here at Oh So Curious. Please like and subscribe. Please share and follow us on social media because we're everywhere and we're doing it for you. Have a good week.
Bye.
I was gonna salute, but then I was like, okay.
Show some respect and salute your audience.